The story you're telling yourself about why you're struggling is the exact thing that keeps you struggling. I'm doing it the hard way. I'm building real skills. I'm not taking shortcuts. That's not discipline. That's ego dressed up as virtue, and it's costing you something you can't get back. I've watched founders work 3 times harder than their competitors. They know more, they sacrifice more, they grind longer, and lose to people who did one thing differently. It's not a better strategy, it's not more funding, and it's not more luck. Something simpler, something that probably makes you uncomfortable to hear. Because if I'm right, it means the last few years didn't have to be this hard. And that's a painful thing to sit with. Doing it alone feels like the right thing. It feels faster, it feels cleaner, it feels less complicated. No one to slow you down, no opinions to manage, no egos to navigate, just you, the work, and the results. But here's what nobody tells you. In the beginning, it's actually true. You will go there faster alone. When the problems are small, you can solve them. When the stakes are low, you can recover from mistakes. When the path is obvious, you don't need outside perspective. Doing it alone just works until it doesn't. And the shift happens so gradually that you don't notice. The problems get bigger, but you've gotten better at solving problems, so you keep solving them. The stakes get higher, but you've survived high stakes before, so you keep pushing. The path gets unclear, but you've always figured it out, so you just keep figuring it out. And somewhere in there, without realizing, independent becomes isolated, and isolated becomes stuck. But it doesn't feel like stuck, it just feels like hard work. And that's the trap, the illusion. Solo grinding creates the illusion of progress. You're busy, you're working, you're solving problems every day. It feels like movement, but here's what you can't see from the inside. The blind spots. When you're alone, there's no one to tell you that the offer isn't working, the positioning is weak, that problem was solved 3 years ago by someone else. You're not just doing the work, you're inventing wheels that already exist, and you don't even know it because there's no one around you to show you. I watch people spend 2 years solving a problem that a single conversation could have fixed. 2 years. That's 2 years of progress. Not because they weren't working hard, because they were alone, and alone means no perspective. Here's what I've observed after working with hundreds of founders. Most people stay stuck not because they lack effort, but because they lack perspective. Effort without perspective is just motion. You can work 80 hours a week and still be going in the wrong direction. You can solve problems constantly and still be solving the wrong problems. You can improve every day and still be improving the wrong things. Perspective is what tells you where to point your effort. And perspective doesn't come from within, it comes from outside. From people who've already been where you're going, from people who can see what you can't. I've never seen someone break through a real ceiling in isolation, not once. Incremental progress, sure. Survival, yes. But the big breakthroughs, the kind of leap that changes the whole trajectory of your business, that always comes from exposure. Exposure to people, ideas, environments that force a shift. And you cannot get that alone. Independence without leverage eventually turns into exhaustion. You can only carry so much by yourself for so long. At first, it's manageable. Then it's heavy. Then it's crushing. And you adapt. You tell yourself, this is normal business. You tell yourself, everyone struggles like this. You tell yourself, it'll get easier once you hit the next milestone. But it doesn't, because the structure hasn't changed. You are still the bottleneck, still the decision maker, still the only one who sees the full picture, and being broke and tired becomes normal. But here's what you need to understand. Being broke and tired is not normal, and it's not a badge of honor. It's not proof of dedication. It's not evidence of work ethic. It's a symptom. It's a symptom of a system that isn't designed for leverage, and you can't fix a system problem with more effort. You can only fix it with better perspectives. The cost of doing it alone isn't about money, it's years. Years spent figuring out things that could have been learned in weeks. Years spent making mistakes that could have been completely avoided. Years spent at a level that could have been broken through. And you don't get those years back. This is the part people don't calculate. They look at the cost of getting help, masterminds or coaches or advisors, and they see the dollar amount, but they don't see the cost of not getting help, the invisible cost, the opportunity cost, the years cost. What would it be worth for you to skip 2 years of struggle? What would it be worth to avoid the mistakes that cost you your best opportunities? What would it be worth to you to see the path clearly instead of stumbling through it? That's the real calculation, and most people never make it. At a certain level, the bottleneck isn't work ethic, it's exposure. The people who break through aren't working harder than you, they're not necessarily smarter than you, they're not more talented, they just have access to perspectives that you don't. They're in rooms where problems get solved faster, where mistakes get caught earlier, where the path is clearer because somebody else has already walked it. That's why masterminds exist. It's not for motivation, it's not for networking, not for the warm fuzzy feeling of community, for perspective. When you're surrounded by people who've already solved the problem you're stuck on, when you're in a room where your ceiling is someone else's floor, when you have access to thinking that took decades to develop, years collapse into months. Problems you've been wrestling with for years get solved in a single conversation. Blind spots you didn't know existed get exposed in minutes. Paths you never knew were available suddenly become obvious. It's not cheating, it's not weakness. That's how every significant business career and fortune was actually built. Nobody does it alone, despite the news articles. The people who claim they did are either lying or they've forgotten the conversations that changed everything. Doing it alone, broke and tired, is not a strategy. It's a default. The path you end up on when you don't consciously choose a different one. And it works. For a while. Until it doesn't. Until you hit a ceiling you can't break through alone. Until the exhaustion catches up. Until you realize you've been trading years for pride. The question isn't whether you can do it alone. You've already proven that you can survive that way. The question is whether you want to keep paying the cost, because there is another way. A room where your problems aren't unique, where your struggles have already been solved a long time ago, where the next level is not a mystery, it's a map someone else has already drawn. The only thing standing between you and that room is letting go of the story that doing it alone is noble. It's not. It's just expensive.